from the Crypt.
Welcome to the Spooky Nerd Club, everyone. I'm your host, Ray, and today I'm here with my co-host, Horror Girl. Say hello to the internet.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about the Tales from the Crypt TV show that was on HBO, and we're going to go through each episode in season 1. We're going to talk about The Man Who Was Deaf, which premiered back in June 10th, 1989. It was starring William Sadler, directed and co-written by Walter Hill, and this is the first episode we're going to go through. So what's your first thoughts when you hear Tales from the Crypt?
So I've heard of it before, but I have never seen any of them until
me.
You told me to watch them. I liked it. It's fun.
So let's jump right into the plot of the episode, and Horror Girl is going to explain what happens in this one.
So hang on to your hats, kiddies. This one's a real shocker.
So the show opens up on a man sitting in a jail cell. There's a voiceover telling us that he's Charles Ledbetter, who is a prisoner about to be executed for killing his boss. So he's taken out of his cell and is led to the electric chair. We see the narrator is Niles Talbot. He's the executioner who loves his job and seems a little too excited to flip the switch. And the entire walk to the chair, Charles is yelling how the governor's gonna call.
The governor's gonna call! He's got to! He's got to!
They strap him in, he gets his last rites, and Niles looks at the red phone to see if the governor calls. But there's no ring. He throws the switch, electrocuting Charles, and throws the switch again just for good measure.
If you were on death row, what would your last meal be?
To drink, I would have iced coffee, obviously. I would have mozzarella sticks,
Fresh.
and fried pickles, both.
Fried pickles is on my list.
Fried pickles and mozzarella sticks, fettuccine alfredo, and cheesecake as the dessert, and then I'll go.
I'm going to have fried pickles. I'm going to eat a chicken cheesesteak pizza. But with that, I'm going to have a top shelf Long Island iced tea, because if I'm going to go out, I want to go out fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I want barbecue brisket just to put me in like a little food coma. I can die before I even get to the chair.
Niles then introduces himself to us and explains how he was an electrician hired by the state prison to repair power generators, but after a few years, he became the new executioner and he has loved it since. So he tells us,
I like electricity. It's dependable. You can trust it.
What a weirdo.
what the fuck?
Yeah. I don't believe in lethal injections.
He's so creepy. Oh my god.
Because that's the way to kill dogs and cats, not a man.
My roommates were like, what the fuck is that? So then we see Niles enter a diner where a newscaster reports the argument to ban the death penalty.
So when he entered this diner, did you hear what he ordered?
I didn't even think it was a diner. I thought it was a bar.
He said, "Can I have a cheese sandwich and a coffee?"
He did not.
And other federal agencies.
Cheese sandwich, cup of coffee black.
I didn't even hear you say that. I wasn't even...
That automatically made me know he was a psycho.
He orders that every day. It is nothing.
Yeah, let me get the huge.
So it turns out they did ban the death penalty, and Niles is now out of a job. He tries to work as a regular electrician again at the prison, but that job's already taken, and they think it would be weird for the prisoners to see him, considering he killed a lot of their cellmates and all.
It's just that, well, we thought it wouldn't be good to have you around the prisoners.
Listen, it's nothing I can't handle. Somebody gets out of line, I'd take care of myself.
So now out of a job, Niles is sitting in a bar and narrates.
Most barroom conversations is either about baseball, football, boxing, or pussy.
Okay.
Go ahead, you can continue. It's so stupid.
But for him, most people wanted to talk about his job. He talks with the bartender Vic about the ban, and Niles says the realest thing.
They put executions on TV, be the fucking highest rated show of all time. Be Nielsen's through the roof. Other networks would start killing people just to compete.
What are your thoughts if they actually showed killings on TV? Do you think it would be like a high-rated show?
There would be people that would tune in every single time and have picnics with their family, just like when all the witches were burned. It would be the same thing.
You think people can eat dinner and watch this shit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like they brought their kids and it would be like a whole day activity.
It would be a popular show. Can you imagine like the other networks though kind of competing They try to like televise like, oh, well, I got the death of Charles Manson. I got the death of Dahmer.
Can you imagine the people that would be getting like framed for crimes just because they would want to see them be executed on TV? It would be like crazy, I think.
That is a crazy point right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like exactly what's going on with Diddy right now. How many networks would fight to execute him on TV?
Yes.
That would be crazy.
So now, Niles is outside walking past a guy picking up a hooker, and he talks to us.
We eat shit, and the shit eats us.
He vents to us about losing his job and blames people being scared of death. He points to two junkies and tells us
They spend all the money they can get just to shoot a little death into their arms. See, they know death is coming. I like that. Because at the same time, junkies are shit. Two-bit criminals.
So far throughout this episode, what's your impression of Niles?
My impression of Niles so far is that he is definitely going to kill some people. Like, I just know that he is going to be a crazy psycho after this. I don't agree with him. I think that this is going to hit the fan real soon. That was my impression so far.
Even working with him, I would be like, yo, this dude like enjoys executions too much. Y'all see this shit? Like how he acting when we grab these prisoners, how excited he gets. He's just talking to himself the whole episode.
He's talking to himself. There's nobody to talk to. There's nothing for him.
He has no friends.
So we cut to a courtroom where the trial is being held for Jimmy Flood, a vicious biker on trial for killing a gay man. Despite having a strong case against him, he's acquitted because the arrest warrant was improperly worded. Everyone in the courthouse is shook, so it's clear he really did it. The victim's sister calls him a murderer as Jimmy walks out free. But Niles is sitting in the crowd with a look like,
oh, hell nah, we handling this.
That's my favorite one. Next, our boy is in a tank top, hat, lighting a cigarette, ready to handle business. Now we see Jimmy park his motorcycle and go to unlock a gate. He gets electrocuted to death on the gate, and I'm pretty sure the scene inspired Home Alone.
And it reminds me of him so much.
A newscaster reports a short circuit likely caused the freak accident. Niles is watching the news from the bar, and Vic tells him,
and some people say there's no God.
Vic mentions an expert says only minorities seem to get the chair and asks if Niles noticed that. Niles responds,
Man, they're all pretty dark when I get done with them, Vic.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that comment? Like, how do we feel about Vic right now?
Fuck Vic. Fuck Vic and Niles. They're both terrible people. I don't care what happens to Niles anymore.
Yeah, Niles can burn.
Cut to another trial where a juror reads the verdict of Cynthia Baldwin and Theodore Carney. They're found not guilty for first-degree murder. They share a smooch, but the crowd reactions show the verdict is sus. Don't worry, though, because guess who's in the crowd? Fucking Niles.
Big Niles just going to cases.
God.
He ain't got nothing else to do. He unemployed and just watching cases.
Back in his black hat, Niles tells us Theodore wanted to leave his wife for this hot thing, Cynthia. But since the wife had all the money, she had to go. Niles says,
I know where his head is at. We all do. Right down there between his legs.
So Ray, we get a little nudie action as Cynthia and Theodore kiss in the jacuzzi, popping champagne. I love how Niles does not try to be sneaky here, he just walks right up to them. They instantly offer him $200, which is kind of weird. He clearly doesn't want their money. He sentences them to death, and Cynthia immediately throws her man under the bus.
Yeah. It's Ted's idea. I didn't know he'd really go through with it.
Shut up,
You gotta believe me.
Shut up, Cynthia!
Niles electrocutes them in the water and really gets that jacuzzi bubbling.
As I watched this episode, I know you mentioned something about the reference of Dexter. It kind of brought you to thinking the same exact thing of this episode.
Yeah, so like, especially how Dexter works at the police department too. Like, I feel like the stories are just so similar. I looked it up, it's not, but I mean, that was exactly what I thought too. I mean, It's so similar. And how he talks to the camera and it's like his brain narrating everything, like his thoughts. That is so similar. That's what I thought too. So later on, Niles sees a newspaper reporting a go-go dancer that was acquitted for her boyfriend's murder. Niles now enters the club where the go-go dancer works, and we see some titty shots. He talks to us again and says,
I never had no problem with women. If I wanted one, I just went out and got her. Easy peasy Japanese.
If you treat whores like queens and queens like whores, you got no problem.
He He points to the queen bitch herself, and the camera pans to show her dancing in the cage, which is hooked up to 10,000 volts. You know, he flips the switch, but nothing happens, because the wires were cut and the police bust in to arrest Niles.
Mr. Talbot, you are under arrest.
How 3 people die in the city and they all die from electrocution? They're like, oh, who lost their job recently? Fucking Niles. Like, it was clearly obvious.
I don't feel like Niles is very intelligent, so I think after a while he would have gotten caught.
Literally, the guy that busted him was the fucking warden at the prison.
Yeah, his boss.
Yeah,
literally.
his boss.
Niles is now in handcuffs at the police station, where the officer reveals the death penalty is reinstated, and now he's going to be on the other side of the switch. Now Niles is the one being dragged to the chair, claiming the governor's going to call. It seems like everyone is happy to get rid of Niles, but he makes a point.
I didn't do nothing that you didn't want. I didn't do nothing you didn't go along with.
His boss apologizes, and Niles says,
That's why I did it, because it's my job. If a man ain't good at his job, then what the hell is he good for?
he gets his last rites, and they flip the switch on Niles, and he takes it like a champ. They do it again for good measure, and he passes away. But Ray, even in death, he has to talk to us one last time about not cutting his hair.
Well, good thing Niles is in each episode of the first season. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, can you imagine how irritating?
Actually, I like this episode a lot just because it kind of like warms you up for the rest of the season. We got a perspective of a serial killer. There wasn't much to the story. It was very straightforward. The fact that this was on HBO, you know, you probably felt like you were watching something that was like forbidden. So this as an opening episode might have been like, yo, did you see that crazy ass Tales from the Crypt episode? I mean, now in today's standards, like we've seen so much crazy shit because so many horror movies come out every year. But if you put yourself into 1989, maybe this might have been a little more impactful to you. From watching this episode, like what do you look forward to like in future episodes of this season?
I liked this episode. I think it was fun. So if it stays at least as good as this episode, then we're good. But also, I mean, I think it's kind of cool that every episode is something different. So I'm excited to see what the other stories are going to be.
So remember, boys and girls, safety first.
Thank you all for tuning in to the Spooky Nerd Club. We really appreciate all of the support. If you could please like, comment, subscribe, whatever you fuckers want to do. Please support our page. And Horror Girl, where the fuck can they find you at?
My Horror Diary on Instagram.
Go support her and tell us what you thought about my stupid ass episode on Tales from the Crypt. And if you think my episode of Tales from the Crypt is the motherfucking best, please comment on YouTube, whatever you guys want to fuck call it. Until next time, make sure you go all electrocute yourself, you stupid bastards.
You're not using that.
Tales from the Crypt.